closing time. Open all the doors.
It's closing time. Cupid the Destroyer.
It's closing time, so just listen and learn. See, the sharper your game, the more money you earn. Ray's got the question, so hurry up before you missed out. Cause JD's dropping knowledge like the textbook slipped out. You need advice, you need guidance. On the way to appointments in the streets driving. Or even if you're doing fine, you're just working on the grind. When you look at your clock, you will see that it's closing time.
Welcome back to another episode of Closing Time with JD Diskin. My name is Ray Lodato, JD's co-host. And Jay, last week we kicked off the show by offering some cold hard cash to our listeners. And all they had to do was send an email to digital@powerhrg.com, right? So for those who forgot, $50 to the first listener who sent in a question or comment, and $100 to the 20th. Now, the listener with the fastest fingers is Mike Schiffer from our business technology department. So that's $50 in Diskin dollars to Mike. And Jay, who was the listener that slid in at number 20, winning that $100?
Well, that
prize?
is the good news, Ray. That is yet to be determined because we haven't gotten to number 20 yet.
Yeah.
So this podcast is going to be the greatest podcast that we've ever done. We have a tremendous lineup on today's pod, and I'm very confident that we will get to
Number 20
by the end of this podcast.
All right. Well, for those of you who's just zone out when Jay starts talking, that means send in your questions and comments to digital@powerhrg.com, and you still have a chance at cashing in those $100 in Diskin bucks. So, Jay, before we hop into the meat and potatoes of the show, who is the spotlight of the week?
Spotlight of the week is out in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The Denver office is the spotlight of the week, and they had a huge week last week, to quote the president. And not only did they have a strong week, but they have overtaken New Jersey.
Wow.
For the number one dollar per issue on the year.
That is huge.
And coming off of the big week, there's no stopping them, although Jersey has started this week very strong to try to get back to the number one spot.
All right, well, moving along. Now, as many of you know, last week Power hosted its second annual Cultural Diversity and Inclusion Summit here at HQ. So Jay and I thought it was the perfect time to talk about the summit and dive into the issues that were discussed. So who better to have on the show than Lillian Humphrey, queen of all things CDI. Lil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and that's Lord Humphrey.
Lord Humphrey.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, congratulations on your lordship.
Thank you.
Nobility is hard to come by these days.
Well, yes.
So, Lil, for those out there who don't know you, can you talk about your personal story here at Power? How did you come to the company, and how did you get to this point?
So let's see. I'm a veteran. So I actually went to Iraq in 2004, came home 2005. I had my son Isaac in 2006, and I was unemployed. And I am originally from Chester, here at headquarters. I live down the street, and this is going to really age me, but I was looking through the paper and I saw an ad for this little company to do data entry part-time. So I applied, and Corey interviewed me. You know what? He was a perfect salesman, because what he did was, I was very prepared for like a normal interview, and I'm all buttoned up and everything. But he makes you feel relaxed and feel like good and everything. And the next thing I know, Lil is at the interview table instead of Lillian.
Right, so Lillian came in and Lil came out.
Yeah, right. So on the way home, I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, what did I do? Like, I was totally inappropriate at this interview. And then the next day, they called me and they said I had the job. So I'm like, sweet.
You're perfect.
Right. Right. And then I get here, and Power was like crazy. And I'm like, this is home. Like, I'm crazy, and these people are crazy. This is perfect. I'll say that about Power. And if you want to say like how I got here, is I was always accepted for just being me. So I always felt like I belonged. No one ever made me feel like I was very different. Now, I came in thinking and assuming that because these are some white guys with a lot of money and access, have a business, that they might not really think I belong, but they never made me feel that way. So JD ends up being my day one, because somehow me and JD have this relationship that's just built on uncomfortable conversations
JD's very good at this.
Right, that are supposed to be like not on the table for discussion, but somehow they are on the table for us. And that's a little bit of how CD&I is built, just based on all these conversations over the years. Like, no one judged me for being Lil instead of Lillian. And then I'm very comfortable having these uncomfortable conversations with people like my friend JD.
Yeah, little known trivia fact. Our HR department here at Power was not formed to manage humans. It was formed to police JD and Rob. Isn't that true, Jay?
Yeah, and that is why Deirdre has left the organization. and in my opinion, and I think I speak on behalf of Rob, good riddance.
Oh, no.
Another power struggle one.
That's right. That's right.
So-
You can't keep us down. That's why we're here.
So, Lil, that brings us to the present day, right? So for those listeners who aren't clued into what CDI is, how did it start, and why is cultural diversity and inclusion an initiative here at Power?
So I got here and there weren't very many people of color. And there were quite a few instances where people made me feel uncomfortable, just in things that they said. And it just didn't equate to the culture that Power is very proud of. Once again, because I've been able to be myself and, just speak pretty freely, Asher approached me and said, like, hey, we've never done anything for Black History Month. So I said, okay. I got with Bennett and we did our first video series for Black History Month. And then by the end of February 2016, between Bennett and JD, it's like, oh, we should have this summit. And Bennett says, if you draw up an outline and give it to Asher, I think it could be done. And I'm not expecting anything either. I give him this outline. He's like, yep, we can do it. And we can do it in May. So it's like 2 months away. So this is the end of February, the beginning of March. And it just takes on its own life, a life of its own. I've just been riding the wave ever since. Everything that comes to me, I just do it. I created an internship program. I don't know what I'm doing, by the way, too. So I'm going to put it out there. I'm a purchasing agent. That's my title. And for Power, I'm responsible for ordering all of the windows and all of the doors for all of the territories.
Now, I don't think that's uncommon, Lil. You hear about people here within Power that created their own roles, or in general, trailblazers in the business world. And what they almost always say is they didn't know what they were doing at first, and they just kept going, and they figured it out as they went along because they were going after something that was important to them.
Yes.
Actually, to kind of chime in here, that's actually like kind of similar to what's going on here. Just literally this podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just something that I think we were talking about, right? With me and you, Ray. And for those that don't know, the producer of the show that makes it sound good and edits it and cuts it all up and is Chris. And Chris has a lot of things going on, and I don't even know how he got roped into this, but he's a part of it, and the show wouldn't exist without him. And but again, this is just something that it came from an idea, like, hey, let's try to figure out a way that we can get some messaging to the Power people, while they're driving or in a camp and things like that. And I think Lil is doing the same exact thing, just on a much bigger and better scale, where people actually listen to her and follow the things that she's talking about. With us, we can't even get 20 people to respond for $100.
and like Lil, we have no idea what we're doing either, and are figuring that out as we go along.
If there's anybody that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, it's you, Ray.
Let's try and guide this back onto the rails here. So, Lil, you started things off, they kind of happened organically, and then all of a sudden CDI was a thing, right?
Yes.
What was your goal with CDI? What were you hoping to accomplish originally?
So this is even the other thing. I'm not even quite sure what I was trying to accomplish at the time, to be honest.
You just wanted to start a conversation.
I wanted to be honest, okay, to take it back, right? It is about a conversation, but there was a women's summit. I was not invited to that first conference. And I joke and say that I had to create my own conference to be invited to something. So originally, I just wanted to be invited to a conference. This is my way. Yeah, the goal is to have more of a presence of various people with different backgrounds. That is one of the main goals. And how do you retain people that have a background maybe a little bit more aligning to my background than maybe, Adams and JD, which is really important.
So it started off very organically. You were figuring it out as you were going along. But after last year's summit, you guys really started to put more focused and purposeful thought into what this summit's going to look like in the future, right? So between last year's inaugural summit and this year's, what happened? What happened behind the scenes?
Just more push. I just would not stop talking about CD&I So from the time the kids got here for the internship program to the Power of Giving donation drive, I was just always trying to figure out a way that I could remain relevant or make sure that cultural diversity and inclusion remain relevant or at least a part of someone's conversation. And I knew I was going to always talk about it at any chance I got. And that was it. It's just like just being very persistent and not caring that I only have maybe 2 or 3 people that know what's going on and really supporting me. But that's all that mattered, is I knew this was important to at least 145 people that left that room last year. And I wanted to develop it and make it evolve, just like how Hanson has done with PVI. Like, it means everything to me.
How has the committee helped all that?
I don't know everything. I like to think I know everything, but I don't. So it's good to have a committee with just various degrees of thought. So I'm very direct and can be kind of harsh, and I need other people around me that can kind of soften that, because my message could definitely be turned off. Could turn someone off. But the committee is a really well-rounded group of people. We all want the same end goal, but we play off of each other, like with our messaging. So it doesn't have to come across as sharply as I initially thought of it. It ends up being what happened, last Thursday and last Friday. Very well polished and thought through, and just really good at relaying a message to people that the message doesn't always resonate very easily with or sit very well with. And the committee was definitely helpful in making sure that this could be a success, and not just speaking to the converted, but speaking to people who don't really believe in privilege, who don't understand what a microaggression is, and after even hearing the initial definition, don't see why it's a big deal.
Right. And for those who don't know, the CDI committee is basically a group behind the scenes who are just trying to further that conversation in between summits, right?
Right.
Not all the work gets done during the summit. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes and a lot of difficult conversations that happen that result in the agenda for CDI. So speaking of this year's summit's agenda, last year's focus was mainly on diversity. This year's was on inclusion. Why the shift in focus, and how did that impact the summit?
So last year, you're right, it was the focus on diversity. We had a smaller group of attendees, 145 people, and it was largely minority-based. People of color and people from the LGBT community. So it was done purposely, because within Power, we're such a small fragment of the business. Whenever you go somewhere for Power, we're always outnumbered. But this was the one time where we made up the majority. And if you were a Caucasian male, you were the minority. And it was just a different perspective if you were white to understand what it might feel like on your regular daily basis to be in a room where, it's only a few of you. And it's definitely eye-opening. So this year, it was more based on inclusion. So we had 270 attendees, and we invited more white attendees as well, because we want to involve them in the conversation. I can speak to people of color. We already understand these issues, but we need our fellow white brothers and sisters to understand these issues as well, and hopefully be able to support us as well within our community here at Power.
Right. One of the things that I thought this summit was one of the best summits that we've ever had, or conferences, or whatever you're going to call it.
Well, I'm involved, so.
Right. And I think one of the things to give Lil some credit is that, going back to the committee idea, this is like her baby. She's the one that kind of created this whole thing. To have the willingness to allow others to give input and to take their ideas is not something that's, easy to do. And I think Lil did a really good job of involving other people. And from that, there was some great content that came from all different groups of people in all different backgrounds and things like that. And for me, it allowed me to get a very good understanding of what people go through in life, as well as their onboarding into Power as a minority.
One thing that Asher said in his open that I really wanted your guys' perspective on. So Asher was talking about why we're doing this summit. And he said, we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. We're doing it because it's objectively good, but we're also doing it because it's good business. Mm-hmm. So why is it so important for people to feel included and accepted in the workplace? How does that translate into good business?
We're a growing business. And in order for the business to grow, we need people. Right? We don't have some sort of new invention that we just need to work on distributing and getting it out to a whole bunch of potential customers, to buy the newest, whatever.
Right.
We need people. And if you're a business that's growing that needs people, you need to have as many people as possible to come into the business, right? So if you don't have women coming into the business, you've just taken out 50% of the population. And if you don't have people that are diverse, you're now taking out a whole bunch of, another 40%. And you're left with a very small group of people that could potentially come to work at Power. So being able to have everybody as a candidate to come work here is what the business needs in order to be able to grow, or else the pool of people you're looking for is too small to make it actually work.
And Lil, how does inclusivity make its way into the fabric of the culture, right? Like, it's one thing to go after an entire talent pool and to make sure that you're being mindful about that. But how does inclusivity make its way into the day-to-day once you're already here?
One of the points that Asher made was diversity is easy. It's easy for people, taking America, for example, it's very easy for people to immigrate here, or they may have been forced here, but at any rate, we're all here together. Mm-hmm. We're diverse, but historically it's been proven that there have been times where there are no coloreds, right? No Jews, no Mexicans, no Irish. That's exclusion. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to be a part of the fabric of society and what's considered to be normal, right? But when you are able to have an environment where you don't feel as though you're an outsider looking in, you're able to function within the company productively. And that's what I've been able to do. I feel like I belong here. I don't feel as though I'm an outsider looking in. I feel like this is my home, and I feel very comfortable sharing my ideas. Now, had I not felt comfortable in having conversations with JD, I would have never been able to pitch anything to Asher, because I don't talk to JD, right? I don't feel as though he would understand my point of view, or he might not respect it. It might seem very silly to him, but he's accepting me as a person, and these issues are important to me. They are part of who I am. So the fact that me with my issues and my perspectives were accepted and now allowed to be communicated throughout the company, and also seen as important to the strategy in moving the company forward, it's all just based on people. Not just how you treat our homeowners, but how you treat people within the business, because we all work together, and this is a stressful environment that we all work in. You don't want to make someone else's life harder than it has to be when we're already trying to do our best work.
For me, one of the takeaways from the summit was just a better understanding of how important it is for people to feel included. And obviously, when you're part of any sort of minority group, the challenge in feeling included is that much harder. But for people to really thrive here, they have to feel that they're a part of Power. I think that is one of the things from the summit that people will have a better understanding for being there. And hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you understand, to reach out to people that are new so that they feel included and that they feel part of the team, regardless of what they look like or what their background is. That's something that we have to do a better job of.
Now, whether inclusion exists or doesn't exist in the workplace, right? Each of those realities can kind of manifest themselves into different ways, right? Or into different things, rather. So 2 of the concepts that were discussed during the summit, there was a specific focus on microaggressions and unconscious bias this year. How do you define those terms, and why are they important to understand?
So these are 2 terms that carried over from last year's summits, like the roundtables, the breakout sessions. That was something that minorities spoke a lot about in their roundtable sessions, or having had microaggressions done against them, or which are just basically byproducts of unconscious bias. So what happens is, I kind of want to say, what happened to all the bigots? What happened to all the racists? They didn't go anywhere. They didn't just magically just disappear. What happened was people just learned how to maybe not communicate that verbally, that they have a distaste or a dislike for certain groups of people, because now it's not socially acceptable. But instead, what they do is their actions show, phrases and things they might say just hint towards biases that we've all absorbed through just historical content, through the media, through our families, through our social gatherings, just generalizations and stereotypes that we have of people. Whether we want to really acknowledge that or not is one thing. But when you have, there were various microaggressions. It's something that seems as harmless as, well, can I touch your hair? Now, as a Black woman, that's very offensive to me. To the person.
Why is it offensive to you?
Talia explained this much better, but it's the feeling of, I'm not your pet. I'm not in a zoo. And it seems very simple. It's like, can I touch your hair? But no, you cannot touch my hair. First of all, it's like personal space. And you're only doing it to me because I'm a black woman. I have a different texture of hair than you. If you have your hair straight and now it's curled one day, no one asks you, like, can I touch your hair?
For that person who might ask that question, for them, it might come out of curiosity.
Right.
But you would perceive it more as ignorance because there isn't that contextual awareness of all these things happened, and because they happened, this is the current reality. And I think one thing that CDI really hammered home is just the importance of awareness and understanding people's different perspectives and why they're different.
And that's why I keep mentioning history, because these things just, they're not any grand ideas that I have. I'm not that smart. I just have this love of history, and history just helps explain why things are currently the way they are and how things exist the way they are.
And unconscious bias, it's not just derivative of racism, although that is a portion of it, right? So we did that test during CDI where there were a bunch of words that were just flashed on the screen, and it was a word association game. Not all of them had things to do with race. I remember one term was Republican. To me, it was an exercise into awareness and self-examination and thinking to yourself, why do I think the way I do? Why do I think the things that I do? Am I conscious of those things, or am I being programmed and I'm not even aware of it?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Maybe what you might associate with a Republican, you might have never had a bad experience personally with a Republican, but you may have formed an opinion that might be negative or positive. And that's probably from things you pick up in the news, things you read online, you know, books you may have read, just influence your thinking. I'm like really pleasingly surprised because this concept of cultural diversity and inclusion and the way that we are addressing it is so much different, I think, than anyone else, because we're being very real about it. When you talk about these topics, they're so touchy and can very easily turn everyone off because you could go wrong either side, minority side or the majority side.
Sure.
But somehow we managed within 2 days to hit a chord with everyone in the room. Like, everyone is a part of the problem. It's not just the white straight man that's a part of the problem. Everybody's a part of the problem. Everyone has these biases and are acting them out against each other one way or the other without realizing it. So we all have some growth to do. We also have some like awareness in our own selves we have to acknowledge. We all have work to do. And I think that collectively we all, at least the 270 people in that room, want to be better.
Lil, what do you think after experiencing the 2 days of the summit and hearing from everyone during and after? What do you think the net was of this year's summit?
The net?
Yeah, like what do you think the end result is going to be?
Well, it definitely has given new perspective to a lot of people, I think, on both sides. I think that this year will definitely be a better year for CDI than last year, because I think people want to communicate that message to other people and help other people understand what this initiative is really about. It's not about charitable, like an affirmative action program. That's not what this is. It's not some snowflake kind of thing. It's a real thing. We work with each other and we've developed these relationships. We care about each other. So then when you hear that people are genuinely like have been hurt before they came to Power, and sometimes have experienced some things that have been very hurtful here at Power, and not feeling like they've been supported. And then on the other side, people don't know how to support people when they have been hurt is really helpful for everyone in the room.
And Jay, being that you also experienced both days of the summit, what was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway was I was just blown away by the quality of person in the room. And everyone that spoke, they spoke with some just like amazing insight and like all coming from a very good place. I felt very proud to be working for Power. Like the organization for me just felt like it was like a better place. And, you know, part of me was thinking that of all these people that were speaking, you know, so well and so on point, so many of them, their Power career is only a few months, a few years. And to think about the people in that room, how many of them were here 5 years ago? And of the 270, it was probably about 27 of them, right? And so in 5 years, that group has gone 10 times in size. And to think 5 years from now, like where we need to be as an organization is that we have 2,700 people that would be able to be at that type of summit, that would have that type of same high quality. And if that's where we are in 5 years from now, Power will be enormously successful, and not just as like a business, but like will legitimately have like a humongous impact on like the actual like real conversation that we're having amongst like the society as a whole.
How do you see referrals as a tool to increase the amount of diversity and inclusion that occurs here at the company?
Well, that's something I think for everyone that was here and everyone that is listening, even if you weren't here, if you feel that you are part of the diversity, you need to refer people so that there's more and more people at Power that, you know, kind of what Lil was talking about earlier. It's like, I want anyone to walk into Power and feel that there is plenty of people that look and sound just like them.
Right.
So that they feel comfortable and confident that this is something that they can make a career because they're around people that they're used to being around. And for that to happen, we need more referrals.
But we wanted to kind of wrap this show up on a positive note.
Oh, yes.
Or not so much a positive note, but a fun note. Excuse me. This has all been very positive. But let's have a little fun before we close this out, right? So, Lil, right now, you are Lord of the Manor. Of CDI, and we wanted to have our CDI Power Rankings. Who is most likely to usurp Lil as Lord of all things CDI? So, producer Chris, I believe you worked with JD to put together a list.
We did.
All right, what do we got here?
So first on the list, Trevor Perryman was a one that came
One of JD's favorites. Gushing about him yesterday.
I love Trevor Perryman, but not a threat to Lil. Very low. I give him a 5% chance, but very high on the cool meter. One of the coolest people at Power. If we have a cool summit, he's running the cool summit.
You were wondering if his feet touched the ground yesterday when he walks.
That's right. Love that guy. Love Trevor, but low. 5% chance on Lil's safe when it comes to Trevor.
All right, who's next?
Another one, Allie Dean.
Ooh. Now, Allie Dean, I have as a legitimate threat. Legitimate threat. I put her as like 33% chance. Very high. 3-1 odds. She's the morning line favorite so far.
Wow.
For me.
Lil, protect your neck.
Yeah. Watch out for Allie Dean. Watch out for Allie Dean.
We got another strong one here. We got Julian Gooden.
Ooh.
First veteran $1 million rep since the PVI initiative
Yeah.
started.
Now, Julian Gooden, I thought brought his A game to this summit. I loved everything that he said. I'll tell you, as far as a threat goes, he is a veteran. So Hansen also is at risk with Julian Gooden.
Yeah.
Lil's at risk, lives in Atlanta, coming all the way up here to kind of take on Lil. I got him 7-1.
All right, so the distance is protecting her.
Yeah.
The heavyweight matchup, Allura Thomas Lyon.
Ooh. Allura does bring legitimate threat. Yeah, I think she might be co-favorite. I have her 3-1 with Allie Dean. I would actually take the exacta of Allie Dean and Allura as they might run 1-2 in the race.
Yeah, I heard
Another one out of Dallas, Anthony Rivera.
Ooh.
Anthony Rivera, I love the story. I think, Power's having success. When Anthony's speaking, I think he embodies the whole movement. Great guy. Low, though, chance of taking over Low.
But why is that? I mean, gushing review, but terrible odds.
He's such a nice guy. I don't think he would actually. I think
nice.
Too nice. Too nice. Wouldn't want to take something from Lil.
Right.
But Allie and Allura are very scrappy.
They would snatch it.
Yeah, definitely not as nice. Not as nice. They see a weakness, they take advantage.
We got another heavyweight, Talia Turner.
Listen, this is a big win for the women's summit. There's lots of ladies here standing up.
Oh yeah.
Talia's
got the eye of the tiger.
Yeah,
Jay.
you know what? She does, but I don't think she would cross Lil.
Okay.
I think her and Lil have too good of a bond that she wouldn't take it, but she would definitely. I see Lil, if she were to ever step down, would give it to Talia.
There you go.
But I don't see Talia taking it from her.
Right. So Lieutenant Governor.
That's right.
Okay. Lieutenant Governor of CDI.
Yep.
And Lil, a good leader engenders loyalty. So there you go. All right. Who's next, Chris?
Last two, starting with Vince Devine.
Ooh, Vince Devine.
That's a big dog.
Vince Devine, wow, legitimate threat.
And HQ is his yard.
HQ, oh man, good relationship with Lil. She wouldn't even know that he was coming to just snatch it right from under.
And Vince is very nice.
Very nice.
But Vince also knows how to go after what he wants.
Exactly.
Yeah, Lil, I would check those brake lines.
Yeah. Vince might inch his way up. He's like maybe the morning line.
All right.
But like during the actual, as the race is about to start, he might get some late betting action to become the favorite. He might come in. I got him at 2-1 now.
And who is rounding out the list, Chris?
And in closing, it's the nature of his game to be silent but deadly, Mr. John Turlington.
Oh,
JT,
wow.
the legend.
JT.
The legend.
No,
Arguably the greatest inside salesman of all
not
time,
sleep
although
on him.
Mike, the Weatherman McAvoy, would have something to say about that.
Right. Now, I will say this. Not a good rapper.
No.
He said that right at the...
Wait, did he try and spit and then
No, he says, like,
I
people
can't do
ask
it?
him, like, oh, you must rap. He said, no, he can't.
Why
rap.
would people assume that he raps?
Yeah, because
Well, then
he's
it's-
just...
yeah.
Yeah, that's just...
There goes a microaggression.
Yeah, it's a microaggression. Black guy with dread. You think they're going to rap.
Yeah, Jay,
You can't
I've
rap.
heard that you can rap. In fact, that people tell time by the way you rhyme.
That is correct. I spit hot fire.
Because I spit hot fire.
That is true.
All right.
But John Turlington is a long shot.
Long shot.
I don't see him overtaking Lil.
All right, so summarizing all of it, who's top dog right now?
Yeah, right
as
now
threat to Lil.
Right now, Vince Devine, number 1, Ali Dean, Alora, 2 and 3. Yeah, they're like 2A and 2B.
Yeah,
right
and
there,
3 is everybody else.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up. Lil, keep an eye. All right, you got to get some side eye going on those people. All right, you got to protect your spot. Now, if you want to learn more about CDI, on next Tuesday, May 29th, Lil is going to be interviewed by Satvik Aluwalia on Instagram Live. Lil, will this be your first live streamed interview?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
More importantly, will I be able to see this on my home phone?
On your home phone.
So, for everybody else, please subscribe to Power HRG on YouTube. You're listening to us right now on YouTube. Just go down and hit that subscribe button. That way you can be notified anytime we upload new content. And lastly, again, get in those questions and comments to digital@powerhrg.com, and $100 could be yours. But for Lillian Humphrey, JD Diskin, my name is Ray Lodato. Apologies to Asher Rayfield. We ran out of time. We'll get him on next week's show. But until then, ABC, always be closing.
Closing time.